Hello guys, and welcome to another Total War Warhammer 3 skill point guide video. Today we'll be covering Helman Ghorst, and I really just want to kind of jump right on into the video because we do have quite a bit to cover, and I want to try and make this video as short as possible with giving you guys the most detail. Now, any of you who have played as Kugath, Plaguefather, or Imric and dealt with Ghorst, or as Greasus, know how much of a pain Ghorst can be. And so let's figure out how Ghorst is able to make these zombie units more or less unkillable as well as himself. So just starting with his first skill point, still I highly recommend getting the Restless Dead, which will increase your campaign movement range by 5%. Still, just like any other video so far that I've talked about, the extra campaign movement range can make a world of difference on the campaign map, whether it's an army or a settlement, going into ambush stance, channeling stance, whatever it may be. Just really good to get that extra campaign movement range for your campaign itself. Now, after spending that first point, I recommend going down his magic line. He's got the Lore of Vampires, which is a very powerful lore of magic. Even though the Invocation of Nehek is getting a little bit of a nerf, it appears in patch 3.0 that is coming out next week in terms of its overall cost. It's still a really good healing spell, especially when you put 2 points into it, because you'll be able to overcast it and it'll become an area of effect spell as well. But then just grab the Curse of the Undeath. That way, each time he's casting something, it heals all units on the battlefield for 7 seconds at a 0.05%, which is really good. And then I recommend just getting the Van Hel's Dance Macabre, I believe is how you pronounce it, because eventually we will be able to get Ever Onward, which just allows you to cast it at a longer range, as well a Winds of Magic cost reduction for the upgraded version. So I usually like to grab that instead of the Gaze of Nagash. The Gaze of Nagash is just rather expensive and it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. But then also grab the Awaken from the Grave, which we'll talk about later on how that can become even more effective, which allows you to summon a White King on the battle map, and you get 2 uses of it here, as you can see. And then just finishing out his magic line, definitely grab Wind of Death, Curse of the Years, Magical Reserves, and Arcane Conduit. Now, unless patch 3.0 fixes the miscast base chance, or miscasting reduction rather, I don't recommend getting Earthing. It's just a wasted point, and he's got a lot of other points that you want to be putting things into. Definitely Wind of Death is still a very good damage dealing spell, even though it has been tweaked and nerfed a little bit already in the game, but he's just able to cast it very cheap by putting 2 points into it as well, but also because his one quest item also reduces its Winds of Magic cost by -4, so he's just able to cast it for cheaper, which overall gives you more casts of it in a battle. Just a really good damage dealing spell. Now, one thing to note, as you're going through this, as you're upgrading and ranking him up and whatnot, as you progress through the skill line, as soon as you unlock the Path to Ruin, which I believe is rank either 10 or 12, I can't remember which one specifically, highly recommend going down this line and then finishing his magic line. You may want to grab Wind of Death first, but like the Curse of the Years, the Magical Reserves, and Arcane Conduit is not nearly as important as grabbing the rest of his special skills here, and this is really where he starts to shine. So Path to Ruin just gives him more speed, which is pretty handy because he is on his corpse cart, which is extremely slow, but also that extra campaign movement range is very handy to have. But also highly recommend moving on here. Grab all 3 of these, as well as Ever Onward. Excuse me. Just really good skill points. If we look at him, this gives him 15 melee defense and melee attack, as well as providing more melee attack for zombies faction wide, which is insane. Which, it goes, their stats aren't like insane, but it's how much healing you can provide him, as we'll see as we continue here. A natural toughness gives him some missile resistance and some extra armor, as well as ward save for zombies faction wide, so they're just going to be tougher from any form of damage that they could possibly take. But really, this big skill point that he provides zombies is this healing cap of 500% for zombie units. I'd imagine either in this patch or eventually this is going to get nerfed, just because of how difficult a Kugath campaign is, but it also gives him 25% more hit points. It increases his healing cap personally by 50%, and then obviously the 500% healing cap for zombie units. Just basically makes them almost unkillable. They have loads of hit points, and they more or less never die. It's basically like hitting a Bobo doll. You knock it down, and it just stands right back up. It's hilarious to see what happens to the enemy forces when they just... the zombies just don't die. You know, a lord or a unit can have, you know, 100,000 damage, and you'll still have a full... oh, didn't mean to move in there. Have a full health army because they just came back from the dead. Especially if you guys have watched my Kugath campaign or played as Kugath, the amount of healing and regeneration and just stat boosting that Kugath and his faction can provide to Nurglings is nothing compared to what Ghorst can do for zombies. As we move on into his skill points as well, the Master of the Dead ability is definitely, putting another point into that is definitely fantastic. It increases its target range, so you can just cast or summon a White King from further out on the battlefield. But it also increases your effect range for Master of the Dead, which just provides regeneration, another form of regeneration rather, just passively on the battlefield there. So really good way to basically, if you're fighting in a blob, you'll just be able to affect more units on the battle map there. So already in terms of healing per second, we're getting 0.5 from the Master of the Dead. When he's casting, he's getting 0.5, so we're already at 0.1% heals per second, which is really good. And then the Ever Onward ability is awesome. Just buffs some of his spells there that I mentioned earlier, but also gives zombies Ravenous Dead as well as Weapon Strength, which the Weapon Strength isn't a big deal, but the passive ability is, because it gives them a heal per second of 0.40%. So we're up to 0.5% already heals per second, which is insane for zombies. Plus, they're going to be in melee, so it's almost always going to be active. Just a really fantastic ability for zombies there. Now, also, for him personally, I recommend getting the Diabolical Presence. It basically increases the effect range of the 3 passive abilities that he has when he's on the Brothers Ghorst Corpse Cart, which if we just take a look here, it provides more melee attack and melee defense and vigor per second reduction for all allies within a radius, as well as his Unholy Lodestone providing more regeneration, so we're up to 0.6%. And then also his Reliquary Corruption, which is his Mortis Engine ability, once he's in melee will increase the area effect there. So again, fighting in a blob is really deadly with Ghorst because you're just going to be able to affect more enemy units on the battlefield. And then also grab Thrallmaster and the Lord of the Scourge. You'll be able to increase your healing cap even further for your Lord and its armies. You're reducing the upkeep cost for zombies, which they already cost basically nothing anyway, but a little extra wouldn't hurt. But also Thrallmaster will allow you to have an extra 15% chance for destroyed units to be restored after battle, which if you've ever played the endgame crisis against the vampire counts, you know how annoying it is when you kill an entire army and their whole roster comes back from the dead. Which they're able to do that mainly for several reasons. When playing against Ghorst, he increases it there, but if we quickly look at the skill tree, you're able to increase it by another 15% chance here with Raise Newly Dead as well. Also with the Enshrine Ancient Lords, you get another 10% there. And I believe there are some other technology points that you can put into, that increase that chance as well. Another one here with the Liber Necronomica, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, increases it again by another 5%. But all of that stuff just makes Ghorst and his zombie spam just that much more insane. Because if we look at the tech tree just a little more, they give them more leadership, more speed, which more speed is always good. But another 100% healing cap for zombie units, so they're up to, I believe, 630%, which is just insane. We get 100% here. Looking at a skill tree, we get another 500%, and then also the Lord of the Scourge gives them another 30%, which brings it up to 630. That is just an astronomical amount, of a healing cap in a battle. It is just absolutely insane. And then after that, after spending these points, definitely recommend filling out his magic line, because why not? But then also going down the red line now, just boosting zombies even more, giving them more melee attack, more melee defense. In the tech tree as well, you'll be able to give them physical resistance. You'll be able to give them Vanguard deployment, which is, whatever. It's Vanguard deployment, more melee attack as well. You're basically just able to make zombies extremely viable. They're just, it's literally like smacking a Bobo doll around again, and they just can never die.
Darkness calls.
But then just finishing out his red line in terms of skill points, I usually do the Mortis Engine. He starts off with one, why not make it a little tankier? And then finishing his red line, definitely grab, you have to grab the Magical Animus, and then grab the Legions of the Dead, which gives them the zombies more melee attack, more weapon strength, some spell resistance, and then grabbing the Undeath Resurgent gives them even more melee defense and leadership when that ability is active. So really good way to keep your armies fighting longer and keep them alive for longer. And then after that, you still have 15 points to spend after getting the kind of the essential abilities as Ghorst. Definitely grab Mentor. Again, sharing experience, once he hits rank 50 with the other lords in your campaign would definitely be handy. Grab some missile resistance. He's on a corpse cart. He's really slow even with the boost to his speed. So grabbing more missile resistance will help him basically not get shot to death when he's encroaching the enemy armies. Other than that, I'm going down his blue line a little bit because we do have quite a few points to use yet. Now you can do the Dead Rise again as well as the casualty replenishment rate. But really, as you progress in your campaign, you'll realize the vampire counts do not suffer from casualty replenishment rate, and you'll be restoring so many units and hit points from the battle. This is kind of overkill, even like the battle healing cap. So really what I end up doing is grabbing the Children of the Night just for some extra character experience in your Lord's army. I usually actually do 2 and 2. I know that I said that's sort of redundant, but why not make it a little more extreme anyway, right? And then grab Immortal Horror. It increases his battle healing cap by an additional 50%, as well as personal replenishment rate for an extra 30%. And then finishing out his blue line, I usually actually grab Lightning Strike for him. I normally don't grab Lightning Strike in campaigns, but sometimes you will run into situations where even though your zombies are beefed up and they're extremely tanky, they will suffer, whether it's magic they're dealing with or just entities actually killing them, because eventually in your battles you will run out of magic, and you can't increase your magic cap with the knowledgeable trait that you used to be able to do in Warhammer 2. But then I usually just grab one of these. It doesn't really matter which one you grab. I usually grab the Vampire Corruption. That way you can grab the Uncanny Presence. That way it increases his magical reserve by 15, and also grabs the extra campaign movement range there. Really just handy. Move it, make things a little cheaper, move around the campaign map a little more, and also give yourself a little more winds of magic at your disposal there. And then your last point, I usually end up going just with the Children of the Night just to get more experience for your heroes, but you could also put it on Dying Horde or any other of the abilities that you want to get. Raising the dead cost is handy if you want to raise the dead other than zombies, but other than that, really with Ghorst, your main priority should be zombies. I don't know why you wouldn't. He makes them extremely powerful, and you don't really need the Forbidden Scripture. You'll be able to get plenty of ancillaries that will boost your research rate as you progress in the campaign. But that is Ghorst skills tree. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, how you level them up, kind of the usual, how you level them up, what you guys think. But definitely let me know down in the comments, and if you guys enjoyed the video and enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified the next time I stream or upload a video. And until then, I will see you guys later on, and have a good one. Bye.